balance sheet. The balance sheet in times of crisis. I always start with the balance sheet. Normally, when we talk about a company and how it's doing, we focus on the sales or the earnings per share, right? The price earnings multiple. Is the stock cheap versus its cohort versus the overall market? But in times like this, tough times, the balance sheet suddenly gets a lot more focus. How much debt does a company have? How can it pay it all back? Plus, does it have enough cash on hand? These are now the questions that we have to ask. Right now, there are three industries that are particularly stressed by the COVID-19 pandemic: the airlines, the cruise lines, and the oil producers. Each has huge fixed costs. Many have way too much debt. Some have no real rainy day funds. Take Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings. That's an amazing company run by the brilliant Frank Del Rio. It's got beautiful ships, sterling reputation. I love the ships, but Norwegian's also got $6.8 billion in total debt, including $754 million in current debt. Yesterday, it took down a revolving loan from J.P. Morgan for $675 million, which, when combined with another untapped revolver of $875 million, will give the company about $1.5 billion in additional borrowing capacity. Hey, it's going to need it. We know Norwegian's had a good cash flow in the past. They can come back. Unfortunately, Dr. Tony Fauci, the leading global expert on infectious diseases, reminds us that there's some risk here. The government's chief spokesman in the fight against COVID-19 told everyone this Sunday that if you're elderly or you have a pre-existing health condition, maybe you shouldn't take a cruise. And he gave the green light to younger people. But retirees are the bread and butter of this industry. So you got to wonder, how can Norwegian pay off that debt? How can it even make payroll if the government's telling vast swaths of the population to stay away from the cruises? Maybe by having a quick cure for COVID-19, maybe that's the only solution. Look, the situation stinks for this group. These companies employ tens of thousands of people. They're great businesses most of the time, but they happen to be a public health nightmare during a pandemic. Cruise ships are the biggest source of the virus for both our country and Japan. If you're like me, you're actually boiling mad that this happened. At the end of the day, though, the cruise lines don't need to be bailed out. If we whip this virus soon, unlikely, but then the problem goes away. If we don't, the companies will reconfigure. Somebody else buys their ships for a fraction of what they're worth, and it goes on again. Some industries are indispensable, not this one. How about the airlines? They've been decked many times before, especially after 9/11, and they always come back, although a lot of that's because they tend to get bailed out. But the coronavirus, well, now in a stay-at-home economy where business travel of all kinds just isn't going anywhere. There are video conferencing with Zoom down badly today. I'm kind of getting interested in that one. Meanwhile, people going on vacation are doing everything they can to avoid the airlines. Who wants the risk of getting sneezed on? Road trip time. Even airports give us the heebie-jeebies, don't they? So while the airlines have much better balance sheets than they used to, they could still run out of money pretty easily if the outbreak lasts too long. I am, though, confident that the government will throw them a lifeline if necessary. That's what always happens. Maybe they'll get low-interest loans. I don't know. Maybe they get no-interest loans because a healthy airline industry is indispensable for this country. Last but not least, there's the oil patch. We want our oil and gas industry to thrive so they can employ people, produce it, keep it so we have national security. Sadly, most of these producers are way too levered. Many will have to reorganize because Russia and Saudi Arabia have gotten to a vicious price war that's going to hurt us. The Russians were eager to drive prices down to put our producers out of business. We're producing 13 million barrels. That's an obstacle to them. So the Saudis turned around and did the same thing to Russia. This whole strategy is the height of stupidity. They could bankrupt every U.S. producer and still wouldn't make a difference. That oil's in the ground. It's not going anywhere. And when prices recover, somebody's going to drill it again. Again, no bailouts needed here. While our oil infrastructure is indispensable, the oil companies themselves are not. Still one more reason why I think you need to avoid their stocks like the plague. Again, I don't want to be too much of an alarmist. If we get a vaccine, if we get a cure for the virus, then everything bounces back. All is forgiven. And that's why I want the government to put itself on war footing to stop this outbreak. Without that, though, the cruise lines, airlines, and oils, well, let's just say their balance sheets are going to crush them. I hope they catch a break. Unfortunately, they all need it. Stick with Cramer.
Don't miss a second of Mad Money. Follow @Jim Cramer on Twitter. Have a question? Tweet Cramer. #MadTweets. Send Jim an email to madmoney@cnbc.com or give us a call at 1-800-743-CNBC. Miss something? Head to madmoney.cnbc.com.